I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us. In the state of Georgia, and specifically in the Athens area, there's incredible heartbreak, there is incredible sadness, and there is some simmering anger. And it all involves the murder of Laken Riley. There she is. She was a nursing student. Think about this. Think about what a nursing student is. It's a young person who is taking their time to learn how to help others and wants to dedicate her profession to helping others. That's what she wanted to do. That's who she was. And she was taken in a brutal, brutal fashion. I want you to take a listen to the sorority president. She was a member of Alpha Chi Omega. And the sorority president spoke about Laken. They had a vigil the other day. Let's take a listen.
Campus is really heavy right now. We're all heartbroken. I want to use this time to tell you about Laken and all she was to Alpha Chi. It is so obvious to me why it feels so dark right now, and that is because we lost one of the brightest lights that there's ever been. This campus and our sisterhood will never be the same without Laken Riley. I take pride in the caliber of women that we have in Alpha Chi. Our sisterhood is so incredibly strong, and I know that together we will get through this. When you were initiated in Alpha Chi Omega, which Laken was in the fall of 2020, you agreed to uphold our values of wisdom, devotion, and achievement. These three words are something that came so naturally to Laken. She showed incredible wisdom throughout her friendships. Many sisters have shared that she was the best listener. She would allow you to ramble on about how your day was or how your life had been lately, and she soaked it up intently. Her wisdom flowed throughout all aspects of her life as she had an eye for those who were secretly struggling. Another sister shared a story on how, on their first date night as Alpha Chi's, this particular sister was struggling to make friends and to find her place. In front of everyone, Laken embraced her and asked if she wanted a photo. That happened nearly 4 years ago, and it still had such an impact on her. She exuded devotion with each and everything that she did. A devoted Christian, sister, student, daughter, and friend. Whether it was nursing school, being the Alpha Chi banner chair, or the incredible runner that she was, Laken showed devotion throughout every avenue of her life. Doing something halfway was just never an option. Finally, Laken showed achievement as a sister shared that she had more drive than anyone that they knew. She was devoted to making this world a better place, and we have no doubt that she would have been an incredible nurse. It is absolutely earth-shattering to think that the world will never have that opportunity, but the impact that she made within her 22 years was enough to last a lifetime and beyond. We have no clue why things like this happen. I'm the first to question why. I've chosen to change my view of this and to know that we were given these people at this time for a reason. Tell your friends that you love them and never miss an opportunity for a sweet treat, one of Laken's favorite pastimes, and scream the lyrics to your favorite song as loud as you can. Be kind. Catch up with your friends. And strive to be the type of person that Laken was, where sister shared, even if you hadn't seen her in a while, it was like no time had passed at all. Although the flowers in our house will fade, the visitors will slow, and we will begin classes again, our hearts will always ache without Laken, who was such an integral part of our sisterhood. I want to share a quote that Alpha Chi shares during our recruitment process, and something that we're holding on to tight during this time. Our bond is strong here. It stretches far, it stretches wide, and it lasts a lifetime. Our sisterhood is shared from far and wide, heaven and earth side. And Laken, we will love and remember you forever. LITB, thank you.
If you heard her, but if you looked at the faces in the background, that's where you see even more of the heartbreak and the sadness. That simmering anger I'm talking about, that's coming from a lot of the parents who send their children to that school and are wondering, how does something like this happen? And you know, that anger is pointing in a lot of different directions tonight. I want to go through so you understand where this took place, because I think that's a big part of this story and will be a big part of the trial of this accused murderer. We begin where it's all taking place, the eastern part of the campus of, they call it UGA, it's the University of Georgia, home of the Bulldogs. It's the eastern part of the campus. Now, last Thursday morning, Laken told a friend that she was going for a run, and she was going to go to the intramural fields, and that's the area that she went to, and you can see where the intramural fields are right there. She never came back from that run. Now, next to the intramural fields is a body of water. Lake Herrick is right there. You'll see it just below the intramural fields on the one side and to the side of it there. It was behind this lake where Laken's body was found around 12:38 in the afternoon, just 20 minutes after police started their search. And she was found in a secluded section of the Oconee Forest Park. And police say she was killed nearby and dragged there. We can take a look at Oconee Forest Park is right there. That's the area. So you can see the fields, the lake, and the park are all right next to one another. Now, here's the significant part about the park. There are several dirt pathways that students will commonly run on. And it's here where they say Laken was attacked and killed. And you can see those little pathways in the park, and that's where you would go running. We now know who the suspect is. I'll show you his picture. If you want to know his name, you can look it up. I'm not going to tell you. The charges against this man are malice murder, felony murder, kidnapping, false imprisonment, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, hindering a 911 call, and concealing the death of another. Now, I want to go back to the maps because this is significant and show you where he was living with his brother, okay? The apartment complex. It's the Cielo Azulac Apartments, and we'll take a look at those. We'll have it in just a moment for you, folks. And where these apartments are, very close to the area I was showing you. It's just five-minute walk. Just walk over the train tracks, and you're there on these pathways where Laken was jogging and where others were jogging. So here we are back on the map. And to the left, you'll see the apartment complex right there. You can see how close it is. So that's where he's living with his brother. He had been living up in New York, got in trouble in New York, so of course he fled. Coward, came down to Georgia to wreak more havoc. I thought he was here to seeking asylum, but apparently not so. Now, I've got details related to the accusations here from the arrest affidavit. Little pieces that I think will tell us a lot. Let's take a look. Committed kidnapping, abduct, steal another person without lawful authority, and holding that person against her will. Holding her against her will. Aggravated assault. This is important. Assaults with the intent to murder by causing great bodily harm with an object. What was that object? What was that object? Aggravated battery, maliciously caused bodily harm to another by seriously disfiguring her body or a member thereof by disfiguring her skull. Next one also tells you a lot about what was happening at this scene. Hinder a 911 call, physically preventing or hindering another person with intent to cause physical harm from making or completing a 911 call. She was trying to get help. She knew she was in trouble. She knew she was in trouble, was trying to get help. Concealed the death of another, dragging that victim to a secluded area. All right, let's go through some of these details. We bring in my special guest. Joining us tonight in Jacksonville, Alabama, distinguished scholar of applied forensics, host of the Body Bags podcast, professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, Joseph Scott Morgan. And I know this one hits you really hard. Joseph, with your connections to Georgia and your connections to college campuses and, you know, being a dad and a grandfather and everything else. From these details that we've learned, what does it tell you about what happened and what evidence there might be to help convict this accused murderer?
I find this language very interesting that you've detailed out, Ben. I think probably, and some people might be shocked by me saying this, but the most interesting piece to this for me is this interference with a 9/11 call. That goes to a bigger picture, doesn't it? That means that she was alive. That means that she was purposed in trying to make that call, and in some way she was hindered. And so we can frame this kidnapping element to this. We don't kidnap the dead. That's not part of it. You have to be a living person in order to be kidnapped. So there was an awareness on Laken's part that this was going down. That might be rather obvious, but I don't think it is. It's not like he snuck up from the rear and struck her and killed her at that moment in time. There was something going on. There was probably an interaction. She had an awareness, at least enough an awareness to try to facilitate a 9/11 call. And then, of course, his activities after that, we can kind of begin to understand the curtains part a little bit here, because now we've got this idea of assault, and they're talking about to do grievous bodily harm to her, and this element of disfigurement that we're talking about. Interesting language here. They talk about an object. Well, I guess anything could be a bludgeoning object. We do know that this had to be blunt force trauma. The coroner had said that a few days ago, where that individual had alluded to the cause of death, that it was blunt force trauma. Now we have an object involved. I think that myself and a few of my colleagues roundabout have thought about this and scratched our head, and we were wondering, did he show up with a tool like a hammer or a pipe or a piece of wood? Or was it like the chief had said, or the mayor, I can't remember which one, they talked about this being a crime of opportunity event. When you talk about a crime of opportunity, that is an event where you don't necessarily show up as prepared as someone would have, say, if they had, we've talked about murder kits before and that sort of thing. It's almost like something was at his fingertips that he was reaching for, that he grabbed, perhaps a rock. We don't know, but we do know that she was greatly traumatized to the point where they discuss this in this data that they've released. I don't know that I've seen this kind of wording before like this, outside of the courtroom setting. I think that this is kind of intriguing here. The one element that's missing here, Vin, and I think you and I could probably talk about this for hours, perhaps. What would have been his motivation to steal her phone? To interact with her? No, I mean, the motivation for me, that he singled out this diminutive little college student, this young lady. I think it's a sexually motivated event. But yet we're not seeing anything that's indicative of that in the information that the court has released, or that the law enforcement personnel have released to this point, to allude to some kind of sexual assault. And as time goes by, we're going to learn more. I can guarantee you. I want to know more about the status of her clothing and what they saw. And also one more thing, and I'll be quiet. I'm interested because, they hooked this guy up pretty quickly on charges, Finn. I'm wondering what type of insults he has sustained to his body. Is there evidence of struggle on him? I saw this mugshot that was released of this individual, and many times what we think about when you have someone that is resisting, you're going to see scratches along the neck, the face, and that sort of thing. And right now, I'm not really seeing that. I wonder. Hopefully, I'm hoping that when they did hook him up, that they took good photos of his hands, both the ventral aspect and the palmar aspect, and up and down his arms, Finn, to see if there's anything there whatsoever.
Absolutely. Joseph Scott Morgan, appreciate your time and your insight tonight. Obviously, we'll continue to cover this with you and go into even more detail as we learn more from this investigation. Thanks so much. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in Columbia, South Carolina, criminal defense attorney and lawyer Lori on TikTok. Lori Murray is with us. In Los Angeles, California, Deputy Public Defender for LA County, Philip Dubé. And in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor, Michael Sterling. All right, Lori, I'll start with you. Justice Scott Morgan struck on something I thought was important that we don't really know yet, and how important will it be, which is the motive in this case, or the alleged motive, obviously, as we move towards trial. What are your thoughts there?
I think it's the glaring, absence of this motive that is just the most disturbing of anything, because if not, it's just a random act of violence. If there's no motive, you automatically assume it's sexually motivated, and it's going to be very important, I think. I don't know what evidence they have against this guy. I just know that there's got to be some reason for us to all make sense of this madness.
Philip Dubé, to make the arrest this quickly, my guess is there's a lot of evidence, including some videos, etc., surveillance videos from around the campus, perhaps near his apartment complex as well. From your perspective, what is the biggest unknown at this time?
The motive. We can look to behavioral clues in the evidence itself and in the charging documents, and I just have a sneaky suspicion that he saw her taking her morning jog, and there was nothing nefarious going through his mind at the time, but he found her attractive and maybe even tried to hit on her, tried to strike up a conversation. She kept running, wasn't interested, but he followed anyway, and maybe she got scared. And she was afraid that she was being pursued and took that phone to call 911. And in his mind, we see this so often, Vinny, especially out here in LA with our undocumented clients. They are so afraid of going into immigration custody and being deported that they do whatever they can to eliminate the object, if you will, of their oppression in that moment. It's certainly not a legal defense, but it explains the behavior as to why they would resort to such a violent, hideous act. The thought of going back to their homeland because of a misunderstanding after being drawn or attracted to a young girl is frightening to a lot of our undocumented clients. And I just have a feeling that more and more is going to come out about that. I seriously doubt that this crime was sexually and property motivated, meaning it was not an attempt to rob the girl or take her valuables in any way. I mean, let's face it, what is she going to have on her person during a morning jog? Nobody's going to have anything of value unless there is some type of intrinsic value in the phone itself. But I'll be curious to see what led police to him. I have a feeling it has something to do with her phone.
And let's not forget, he ran away from New York after he got in trouble up there as well. So he knew getting in trouble again. This reminds me of what you just described was the Molly Tibbetts case.
Yes.
The same exact case where man approaches woman, woman wants nothing to do with him, runs away from him, and he's not taking no for an answer, and he gets physical. Michael Sterling, you're in Georgia. Walk us through how this thing's going to play out.
Yeah, Vinny, I was actually in Athens, Clark County Court this morning throughout most of the day handling a separate matter, and it's all anybody was talking about in the community, at the coffee shops, inside of the courtroom. It's all anybody could talk about. So the community is, extremely impacted by this incident. So what will happen next? Obviously, he will get appointed a lawyer. He'll be formally arraigned. Clark County Courthouse, as me and some of the other lawyers talked about this morning, has had some difficulties with their staffing, but I'm sure this case will get top priority. They will do everything they can to bring this case to justice. They'll probably put their best top prosecutors in Clark County on this matter. And what will happen in short order is he'll be formally arraigned. Likely he'll have a bond hearing. Very unlikely that he'll get a bond, one, considering his undocumented status, and then considering the nature and circumstances of the crime. And then I think they will go from there. You'll probably see a trial date within the next 6 to 9 months. I don't think this is one of those cases that they're going to let hang around for 2 or 3 years. I think what you're going to see is probably an expedited schedule on this trial case with the best prosecutors in Clark County on it.
Gotcha. And we've got the best with us tonight. Lori Murray, Philip Dubé, Michael